Thanks for tuning in to the very first episode of the MaritimeGardening.com podcast. I'm Dave Doggett. I'm more of the tech guy behind the scenes. Ended up connecting with Mr. Greg Otten. And basically, just a little quick history. MaritimeGardening.com started out with the intent of an online community, discussion forum type environment. And while it did work to some degree, I think technology sort of caught up to it. It was very difficult to capture the attention of people from social media like Facebook and get them to interact on the discussion forums. So after meeting Greg, and we've come up to this place where we feel that this audio podcast is the way to go, and Greg is enthusiastic about this, and so we've gotten together, and we're going to give this a try. So we appreciate you tuning in and listening. And if you want to check out the show notes for this particular episode, you can just go to maritimegardening.com, or you can go to maritimegardening.com/001 for episode 1. So I'm sitting here with Greg right now, and we're just going to work through what we had in mind for the first episode and see where we build from there. So how you doing today, Greg?
Great.
Excellent. So after meeting you, it's very obvious that we share a similar passion for fishing and the outdoors. While I do come from a line of, actually both my grandfathers were green thumbs, grew a lot of their own food. And while I was interested in that and I enjoyed eating it at their houses growing up as a child, I never really, I don't know if I had the opportunity or took the time, or maybe that's what we're going to get into. But, how did you keep that interest? I assume that it's something that goes back to when you were a child.
Yeah, I grew up, we had a house in the suburbs, and my father had a garden in the backyard. It probably was about, 20 feet by 20 feet. Maybe it was larger than that. No, maybe 25 by 25. Anyway, he grew the typical things that people would have grown. This would have been back in the 70s and 80s. Potatoes, carrots, tomatoes, Swiss chard, typical things like that. And I always remembered having that, access to that as a child. I could come home from school with I remember going out into the garden with a salt shaker and eating these fresh tomatoes and pulling carrots out of the ground and eating them, and just seeing, the thing develop over time, and it really stuck with me. And I left home and went to university and lived in apartments and really got away from all of that. I was too busy having fun. And eventually, I got married and got a house. And the first thing I did when I got a house was I wanted to put a garden in. I just had this need, and I put something small in, and it worked pretty good. And then the next year I wanted it to be a bit, I grew a couple things, but I want to grow some more things. So I grew some more things, and now I've got a garden that's about 2,500 square feet, and I'd probably be thinking about making it larger, but it's surrounded by a 4-foot-high galvanized fence that would be difficult to move. So I'm sort of constrained for now, but that will probably change. It seems to be bigger is always better. There's always things. There's still things. I'm planning it out this year, and I realize there's things I want to plant that I don't have room for, even with all that room.
Right.
So yeah, it was something I grew up with, and something I got back to, because as soon as I had land, I thought, well, I want this. Why would I grow grass on my land? I want this land working for me. I like being outside. I don't like going. And that's the other thing. I always went to a gymnasium. I always worked out. And as soon as I got that garden, I stopped going to the gym. Right there. I didn't need to work out. I would be out doing something all the time. Be out doing something on my property or whatever. And I haven't gone to a gym since.
Nice. And you look like you go to a gym.
Well, gee, thanks.
No, you do look like you get plenty of exercise. So
I looked better when I went to a gym. I was more ripped.
Okay.
When I was younger, I didn't have kids.
So, you've always, since you've had your own property and space for having a garden, you've had a garden, and it's something that you work at regularly.
Yeah, but not, it's not. This time of year is probably the busiest time, because you're putting things in, and seedlings have to be watered. But I have a type of gardening I do. We'll talk about that later. But the whole point of designing your garden is you design it to take care of itself. From about late June for the rest of the gardening season, I barely touch a hose. My garden takes care of itself.
Nice.
So 5 to 10 minutes a day is really all I spend in my garden. I spend most of my time building gardens for other people.
Perfect.
I really don't have a lot of time to work on my own. I'll come home and go in my garden and whatever needs, 10, 15 minutes, 5 minutes some days. Some days I don't even, and any day I don't want to go, I don't.
Right. And it's not necessarily going to fall
And
apart.
the world's not going to end.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's a big part of it, at least with myself and probably a lot of other people listening, is, nobody feels like they have time for anything nowadays. People are in a rush to go here and there. Kids are in all kinds of activities. There's no time for anything. You're lucky if you see each other for an hour through the day. But basically what you're saying is, if you do it right, you don't necessarily have to invest an incredible amount of time to get something out of your garden.
Yeah, and you may find that, as time goes on, some of those things you're doing, you may be less inclined to want to do them anyway because you're getting something out of the gardening that, that replaces that. I mean, I use a yoga class as an example. If I were to take yoga, I would have to drive about half an hour to take the yoga class, and then I'd have to do the yoga class, which I'd have to pay money to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd have to drive home. So that would be 2 hours.
Yeah.
As opposed to just going in my backyard for 15 minutes, and doing what needs to be done there. And if I want to spend more time, I can. But it's peaceful, it's tranquil, it's exercise.
Awesome.
So, I mean, you may find that it sort of drives a process within you that you begin to start uncomplicating your life. You can't use your, what do we call it? What's the term we use? Your Android or your smartphone. You can't use that while you're gardening. It has to go in your back pocket at the very least.
You can listen to the show while you're gardening, though. That's kind of cool. But yeah,
Yes.
You're right. You have to be focused on what you're doing.
Your hands are dirty.
Yeah,
you're in there.
Dirty. And so it seems to be something that our grandparents, I don't know, maybe your parents, my parents were not into gardening, but it seems to be something that was just totally common not that long ago. So how did we get away from it so quickly? And, is it maybe coming back, or is there a way that it can come back for most people?
It can come back for anyone if they just decide to do. If they have land, you got to have land.
Right.
You can have an apartment with a deck and you can put something in a pot, and you can do that. But and that's great. But it's probably not going to give you a lot of exercise.
Right.
But if you own land, you can just decide today to have a garden. But I think one of the main reasons I'm into it is because I had it when I was growing up. It's burned into me. I like fishing because I went fishing as a child.
Right.
I like gardening because there was always a garden when I was a child. I was out in the backyard when my parents were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something I was around. It's sort of in me. I like being out in the woods because I was out in the woods a lot as a child.
Right.
And I think our generation and subsequent ones were probably the first generation where the parents didn't do that. Their grandparents did it. And a lot of my friends, some of their parents did it, some of their parents didn't. But then if you went just a generation 10 years, people that are 10 years younger than me, way less of them, because you got, dual income families.
Right.
Everybody has to work so hard. There's all this stuff we have to have. It's it's expensive. Just raising children is expensive. All that sort of stuff. There's all these activities everybody's supposed to be in, and just got out of doing it. So children aren't exposed to it when they're growing up. And so they don't have this need, almost like, it's almost like a salmon wanting to go back to where the stream it came from. You're trying to get something that it really does connect you with that childhood feeling of wonder and innocence, and you're watching things grow, and there's bees and there's birds, and it's so simple.
Right.
It's so uncomplicated. It happens when you want it to happen, but you're also passive, It's just a different sort of thing, and it's so nice to just go and unplug. I don't know how we got away from it, but it's obvious. You drive around any neighborhood and just look around and look for the gardens.
Sure.
Even if there is a garden, it's tiny, and it might have like oregano and basil and parsley, and it's not even a food garden.
Yeah.
So that's you know, I don't know how we got out of it other than just we became consumers.
Right.
We stopped being people that did things. And it's just a general systemic change in our culture, North American culture. We stopped doing things for ourselves, and I'm not judging that.
Yeah.
I'm part of it too.
Yeah.
But we started just being consumers. You have a job, you make money, and you use that money to purchase goods instead of just, you know, like I'm fortunate. This is an example. I'm fortunate. I live fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it. I live about 20 minutes from the nearest hardware store. I break the handle on my shovel. It's going to take me about an hour to get another handle.
Right.
I got to drive there. I got to buy it. I got to drive back. I got to put it on there, or another shovel.
Right.
It's actually easier for me to just cut down a tree that's about the right size and make it. And if you look at both my shovels, they have like tree handles.
Yeah.
You know, I can put a handle on a shovel in about 15 minutes. Why on earth? And it's free.
And you didn't go pay $20 for it. Yeah.
Anyway, we've gotten away from that whole mentality. I'm rediscovering it just by virtue of living somewhere where I can't go and buy stuff. I've started just doing things, and I realize there's a lot of things you can do that it's actually cost effective for me. And gardening is certainly one of those things. People have a value for organic food, fresh food, local food, buy local.
Yeah.
What's fresher or more local
or organic food right now?
What's fresher or more local or more organic than that more guaranteed organic because you're than the stuff you grew in your own yard.
Yeah. Sometimes I think organic is a trademark.
It is. It's a pitch. It's a. Well, there's all these rules around it, but even it's sort of like this percentage, certain parts per million can't be this or that in the soil. Well, in my garden, it's like it's the soil that was there and horse manure and the grass and wood chips and stuff I throw on it. It's organic. There's nothing there that isn't organic.
So even if you don't have land, I've noticed in the last few years there's more and more of these community gardens popping up, like even in downtown Halifax here, and even in Bridgewater where I live, there's community gardens. So I guess you don't necessarily have to have, your own land to get involved to some degree, but obviously if you have a backyard with any space at all, why not turn into a garden? I know it's impossible to keep my grass green, so I might as well have a garden there.
Well, it's the thing that all the grass does is it takes. It gives you nothing. It just takes. Like it takes gasoline, it takes oil, it takes chemicals.
Yes.
It takes time.
Yeah, just to feed the cinch bugs that I have going on. So that's.
Yeah, those community gardens are also a great resource. I went to university I'm from Nova Scotia. I went to University in Hamilton, Ontario, and the whole time I was there, I said, "Oh God, I wish I had a garden." And the year I left, I realized there was a community garden right down the road, and I could have had in Hamilton, the conditions there are like the valley but better. Yeah, and it's kind of strange. The place is, kind of seen as this big industrial center, but it's like an oasis. It's a valley.
Sure.
So it's a great place to grow things.
Awesome. What else we got there on our little to-do list for this first episode?
So one thing I want to do, for this whole series is just define the term gardening first, because it's useful for people to understand what we're talking about, frame that discussion. When I'm using the term gardening, I'm talking about food gardening. I'm not talking about flowers and things like that. I don't think there's a need for any more on that. You can listen to various radio shows and stuff like that to get advice on how to make your tulips more tulipy and your azaleas more, colorful. This is about food gardening. The side benefit, I guess, is that whatever, vegetables are the hardest thing to grow. So whatever works, if you're good at this, you're good at the other. I have flowers and things like that on my property.
Kind of spills over.
Their flowers are, for the most part, they're weeds that we like to look at. Same with herbs for that matter. So they're very easy to grow. They need way less, in my experience anyway, than vegetables. They don't need the kind of soil. Vegetables need great soil, and it all starts with the soil. So when I'm talking about gardening, let's define that. What is gardening? The way it's sort of seen right now is like as a pastime or a hobby or an exercise in frugality, a way to save money. It is all of those things, a way to get outside, something to do. But I would define it more broadly as an investment. It's an investment that, because you put something into it and you get something out, right? I mean, it is a pastime and it does serve that purpose, but collecting stamps, you don't get to like eat your stamp collection. Or if you're collecting, if you're a Civil War reenactor, you don't get to eat musket balls or whatever. You don't get to do that. Whereas with this, I mean, you put a bit of time in. There's, some money, but we'll talk about that in subsequent episodes. It doesn't have to be a lot, really. It looks that way, but it doesn't. And of course, you need some space. You need a space to do it. But I mean, you're going to get back food. You're going to get back, you get out in the sun, you get some vitamin D. You're going to get some exercise. You're going to get healthy. It's a great thing that if you have children, it's a great thing to do with your children. It'll get ingrained in them. They love, digging for potatoes and looking at all the bugs and stuff like that. It's like a biology lesson for them. There's always stuff to learn. You're always learning. Every season I fail at something, I succeed at something, and I learn more.
Right.
You get the economic benefits. You get the nutritional value of the food. You get to unplug, just to break from all that. You're benefiting the environment. Your stress levels go down. Peace. And you get, and I've actually done the numbers on this, just in terms of money, the money you save on groceries, season 1, you can get a return on investment with a garden. I mean, you're not going to get a return on investment if you plant an oregano garden, unless you eat a lot of oregano. We eat a lot of oregano in this house. But I mean, if you plant things that you like to eat, and that's what you should plant. Don't plant like things that plant the things you like to eat. That will grow here in Nova Scotia. Then you'll get something as simple as, a pack of kale. To buy one meal's worth of kale at the grocery store, it's like $3-4.
Yeah.
And a pack of kale seeds costs $1.99. And you could plant, like, with that, and I just did this the other day, you can plant, a 4 by 12 garden bed with that one thing of seeds. Really? And on top of that, you have to thin them out. Like, that's more seeds than you can use there. Like, you sort of kill the weak ones and keep the strong ones. So you get kale from like end of May till probably November, depending on the kind of fall you have. Here in Halifax, the winter doesn't really come till late.
Right.
So you've got kale like sometimes even till Christmas. It depends on the actual microclimate that exists on your property. So that's an investment. I can't define it any other way. There's inputs, and I can't think of one investment that turns around that well. I've got like GICs and mutual funds, and geez, I tried the stock market once. That was a disaster.
Everybody's out to take from you, not.
It's the best kind of investment. You park the money and then you have all this anxiety about what's going to turn around. Boy, you put an apple tree in the ground, you spend like $40 on it, and you've got apples for the rest of your life.
That's true. That's true.
Or like any perennial like that. My asparagus and my rhubarb and my straw. I spent $10 on strawberries 3 years ago, and I don't have to buy strawberries. I got a variety that produces right up until the fall. So I've got like strawberries all summer long, a bowl a week, and tons of them. So I mean, that's $10, and I've probably got about $300 worth of strawberries out of that a year.
Awesome.
So you're eating way more strawberries than you normally eat.
Yeah.
So it's an investment with all these benefits. The benefits of exercise, the benefits of a hobby, the benefits of a pastime, but also the benefits of like an actual economic activity. So it appeals to me on all those levels. It's got to give back.
Sure. Makes total sense. I mean,
I've never gotten back from I love fishing. I've never gotten back the money. I've never caught like $5,000 worth of trout.
And if you did,
I'd feel kind of bad. It's a lot of trout, man.
Exactly. No, that's fascinating. I mean, and so just real quick, this show is designed to kind of encompass the entire Maritimes. I know there's different zones for gardening. So things, the way the gardening season here is on the Atlantic coast of Nova Scotia, fairly similar to New Brunswick?
Yeah.
So hopefully this will, everything that we'll be talking about on this series will apply, all over the Maritimes.
We're basically Zone 5, but from year to year, there's 5A, 5B, and there's 4, and there's 6, and there's some years where the province behaves like a zone 6, and there's some years where it's more like a zone 5. Last year it was like a zone terrible. I never seen anything like last year.
Yeah.
And the reason how we connected, what I was looking for some sort of online resource to discuss gardening here, because
locally.
Locally, because I watch a lot of things on YouTube, and it's like they're doing something, and that's great. Then I realize they're gardening in Georgia. Well, I can't do that. That's not going to work for me.
Exactly.
So there was a need for talking about how do we grow, this vegetable, or that. When should it go in? Am I putting it in too early? Am I putting it in too late? There's so many different things that some things can go in way earlier than you think.
Right.
And some things should probably go in a little bit later than you think.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to learning, learning lots from what you know, and I'm sure everybody else will be too.
So, the other thing I want to accomplish with this show is to, introduce people to a way of gardening that is, I would say, easier than what you probably have in your mind as a way of gardening.
Right.
The way I grew up, watching my father in the garden is, every fall he'd rent a rototiller from the hardware store and rototill the soil. He'd put, he'd get his soil tested at the agricultural college, and he'd put this fertilizer on. And then once everything was growing, and he'd lime it. And then once things were growing, he'd put this white powder on everything, and all this sort of stuff. And there was constant weeds everywhere.
Right.
And it's just really complicated, backbreaking, difficult thing to do. And especially, I would say, our society is probably the most sedentary it's ever been in the history of ever.
Well, yeah, someone like me, especially, I remember watching my grandfather do this.
It's really hard.
I never once said, yeah, I'd like to do that.
It's like you did all that, and you got some carrots. Forget it. I'll just go buy them.
Exactly.
And you can buy that stuff pretty cheap at the grocery. Although I would say when you grow your own, and I'm sure there's some placebo effect, but it does taste. Because the varieties you're growing are going to they've been selected for flavor, not for shelf life and appearance. They're selected for taste. So you grow your own stuff, it's going to taste better. So, that's what I seem to recall, and that's the way I gardened for years when I go back into it. And then one day I just, usually around March, I start getting the itch for the next season, and I start looking for things to watch. I'll go on YouTube or whatever. And I just watched this video where the guy was talking about this approach to gardening called permaculture. And we're going to have a whole episode on this. The basic concept is the guy says, look at the forest. Who's watering that? Who's fertilizing that? Who's weeding? No one is. And everything's growing great.
Things still grow.
Look at the ditch on the side of the road. Look at everything life's growing out of it, All you have to do is look at that and think about it for a little while and start copying that design in your garden. And, the garden will take care of itself. I'll give a perfect example. In my driveway, I have wood stacked in my driveway, and I got one side of the driveway that is against the side of the house that faces south, and it's all gravel. And I've always got weeds there. Year after year after year, there's weeds on the gravel, and I'm always trying to get rid of the weeds. And then one day, I've been doing permaculture for a while. I just said, wait a second, I'm not thinking right. Nature's trying to tell me it wants things. No matter how many times I kill what's growing there, it's growing in gravel. That's a great place for things to grow. I'm going to put a garden there. And all I did, I'm telling you, all I did was, but I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have to weed it.
Right.
So I put herbs there. It's a little garden that's probably about 2.5 feet by 10 feet long. And I put perennial herbs there, like oregano and parsley, close to the kitchen, right? It's perfectly positioned, right? And I put those herbs there. I put some newspaper down to smother out all the weeds. So I put newspaper all around, and I put a little border around it, and I put 3 inches of sand, like the kind of sand you use for a septic field. You can get it $30 for a yard. I put sand down, so it's a desert. Nothing grows there. The only thing that grows there is the things that I put in, right?
Yeah.
It's weedless. I haven't touched it yet this year. It's just this sandy desert, and there's parsley, sage, oregano. It's all growing right now. It's growing beautifully.
You'll have to take a picture. And we'll post that up.
That's permaculture. That's it's an example. There's so many different ways to go about it. It's not one thing. And if you watch, if you start watching video on it on YouTube, it seems very complicated. The guys that talk about it tend to use a lot of big words,
Right, right.
and it's just like, just look at nature, think a little while, copy.
Yeah.
There's one thing human beings are good at. We're copying.
That's
You see
right.
a spider's web, you say, hey, I can kill a lot of fish using that
That's
same,
right.
we copy things.
Yeah.
You see a lightning that makes a fire, that looks like
That
useful
looks good.
stuff, We're good at copying. So, I mean, look at the thing that does growing the best, nature. It does it all on its own. It's untended, and try to develop your garden in a way that's going to do that.
Awesome.
So we're going to talk about that, because I think it's the way it's going to make your garden so much easier. The year I switched to permaculture, I had the most productive garden I ever had, and I never touched a hose from like some point in June. Once everything's up, once all your plants are about 3 inches high, the roots are deep enough, and you've got some sort of cover that keeps the sun off your soil. It just takes care of it. So you just go out and it's a grocery store. It's produce.
That sounds like my kind of garden.
You just
right
go
there.
out and take stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's wicked. Definitely.
Have a beer while you do it. Coffee or whatever.
Definitely. We'll try and share some photos as well with this episode. It'd be neat to have a picture of what you got going on there now. And yeah, perfect. I think that about wraps up the length of this intro episode for sure. That's awesome. Good information. A good start, Greg, with us.
Great.
And we appreciate you tuning in. And again, if you want to follow along or check the show notes out, just go to maritimegardening.com/001. And also, we have abilities built into the website so that you can subscribe by email to be notified of upcoming episodes. We're going to try and do this on a weekly basis. This is very much a part-time effort for both of us. So, there may be the occasional week where we slip here and there, but that's the intent. So, by all means, subscribe to the email. Just fill out the little email form on the site or the one that pops up. Just put your email in there and you'll be notified. You can also subscribe, hopefully by the time this goes live, on iTunes or any of the other podcast networks. So we appreciate you listening, and
thank you.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Yep.